We've all been there, right? You're driving along and then you see them. Those flashing blue and red lights pop up in your rearview mirror. Your heart does that little jump, your stomach just sinks. It's a feeling we all know. But as you pull over, a much bigger question than how fast was I going might race through your mind.
And that's the big one. It's probably one of the most common and most confusing questions out there. You get pulled over for, say, a busted taillight, and the next thing you know, the officer is asking to have a look around inside your car. Do they actually have the right to do that?
Well, here's the short answer, and it might surprise you. Yes, they can. But, and this is a really, really big but, it is not a free-for-all. A traffic stop doesn't just open a door for the police to do whatever they want. The search has to fit into one of a few very specific, legally defined boxes.
Okay, so let's get into it. To really understand this, we have to start with the fundamental rule that's supposed to protect all of our privacy. And then we'll see why our cars get treated a little differently than, say, our homes.
Everything comes back to the Fourth Amendment. You can think of it as the bedrock of our privacy rights in the U.S. It basically says the government can't just search you or your stuff for no reason. It protects you from unreasonable searches. And usually, for a search to be reasonable, the police need to get a warrant from a judge. That's the default rule.
But, and there's always a but in the law, isn't there? We have something called the automobile exception. See, way back, the Supreme Court decided that cars are just different from houses. The main reason? They're mobile. Evidence can literally be driven away. Because of that, the courts have said cars don't get the same full-blown warrant protection that your house does. So, if the police don't always need a warrant, what exactly are the legal gateways that let them search your car during a traffic stop? Let's dive into the specific situations where they absolutely can. An officer can't just search on a whim. They need a specific legal reason, and these are the 5 big ones, the main exceptions to that warrant rule. So let's break them down, starting with the one you're most likely to encounter. First up is consent. This is by far the most common path to a vehicle search. It's simple. If an officer asks for permission to search your car and you say yes, then you have just given up your Fourth Amendment protection for that search. That's it. Your yes is all they need. And this moment is just so critical. The officer's question is often very casual, something like, "Hey, you mind if I take a quick look in the car?" But your answer, "Officer, I do not consent to a search," is a powerful formal exercise of your rights. And you should know, you never ever have to agree. And let's be crystal clear here. For your consent to be legally valid, it has to be voluntary. It can't be the result of threats or pressure. You have an absolute right to say no. And here's something else you really need to know. The police are not required to tell you that you have the right to refuse. Okay, next up, probable cause. Now this is a much bigger deal than just a hunch or a gut feeling. For an officer to have probable cause, they need to have specific, solid facts that would make a reasonable person believe that, yes, there is evidence of a crime in that car. So how does an officer get there? Well, it's kind of like they're building a case, brick by brick. It all starts with a legitimate, lawful traffic stop. From there, maybe the officer sees something illegal in plain sight, or they smell something like marijuana. These individual facts start to stack up until they create probable cause, which then gives them the right to search. This one is pretty much what it sounds like. It's called the plain view doctrine. If an officer is legally allowed to be where they are, like standing next to your car during a stop, and they can clearly see something illegal just sitting there on the passenger seat, well, they can seize it. No warrant needed. The key part, though, is that they have to be in a lawful spot to see it. All right, now for a search incident to arrest. A lot of people misunderstand this one. It does not mean the police get a blank check to toss your car just because you've been arrested. It's actually pretty narrow. They can generally only search if you're not yet secured and could still reach into the car for a weapon, or if it's reasonable for them to believe that evidence of the very crime you were arrested for is in that car. And finally, there's the inventory search. Now this one's a little different. If your car is legally being impounded, towed, the police are allowed to do a search to make a list of everything inside. It's not supposed to be an investigation, it's more of an administrative thing to protect your stuff and to protect them from liability. But, and this is important, it has to be done according to a standard department policy.
Phew. Okay, so we've gone through what the police are allowed to do. Now let's pivot to what is arguably the most important part of all of this. What are your rights, and how can you actually use them in a calm and effective way? Now you need to burn this next part into your brain. Saying no to a search is not an admission of guilt. It cannot be used against you in court. All you're doing is exercising a right that the Constitution gives you. period. So, here's your game plan, your playbook for a traffic stop. Step 1, stay calm and be respectful. It never helps to escalate things. Step 2, provide your license and registration. And then, Step 3, if you are asked for permission to search, you state clearly but politely, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." And finally, a great clarifying question is Step 4, am I being detained or am I free to leave?
So what happens if the police just ignore all these rules? What if they search your car without your consent, without probable cause, and they actually find something? What happens then?
Well, this brings us to a really powerful legal tool called the exclusionary rule. In a nutshell, this rule says that if the government gets evidence by violating your constitutional rights, they generally aren't allowed to use that evidence against you in court. It's a huge deal.
So let's just walk through how this plays out. Imagine an officer conducts a search that just doesn't meet any of those legal exceptions we talked about. It's an illegal search. And during that illegal search, they find something incriminating. So now what? This is where that exclusionary rule kicks in. A defense attorney will file a motion to suppress the evidence. And if the judge agrees the search was illegal, that evidence gets thrown out. It's like it never existed. And that can completely gut the prosecution's case, sometimes even leading to the charges being dismissed altogether. So at the end of the day, remember this. While police can search your car without a warrant, their power is not unlimited. It is held in check by the Constitution, and your best defense is understanding what those checks are. And that leaves us with a final, crucial question. Knowing your rights is one thing, but having the calm and the confidence to actually use them when you're on the side of the road under pressure, well, that's the real challenge, isn't it?